Hello and welcome to my talk. I am Malte Mues and I'm going to present you the paper Teaching a Project-Based Course at a Safe Distance, an Experience Report. This paper is joint work with Falk Howar. We are both currently working at the Automated Quality Assurance Group at TU Dortmund University. We present this paper as part of the 32nd IEEE International Conference on Software Engineering Education and Training. In this paper, we're going to present shortly our experience from doing a hands-on project during the corona pandemic in the summer term 2020 at a German university. Our hands-on project is called Formal Methods for IT Security, and we are combining topics from 4 different areas in this course. The 4 areas involved in the hands-on project are formal methods and IT security, as are already in the title, but as it is a hands-on project and the students in Dortmund are supposed to do at least one of them during their undergraduate degree, they should also learn a little bit about general software engineering and soft skills for working in a group and how to build and package their projects and code. So these are like the areas from which we take topics for the course. Next, I will describe shortly the setting. We have 20 students, all of them are undergraduate students, and they are supposed to do this hands-on project to get 7 European credit points. And due to the corona pandemic, the summer lecture term in Germany has been shortened from 15 weeks to 13 weeks. So we have to do this in 13 weeks now. And 7 ECTS points in 13 weeks. That means students are supposed to work roughly like 14 to 16 hours a week on this project. It's a hands-on project. This means students should work themselves on software projects. It's not that we should just present content and then they consume content and do exercises and there's an exam at the end. It's more that they should do their own software project and present their project at the end. And students are supposed to do this by the curriculum at the end of their bachelor's degree. When we started this course and we looked on how to do it during the corona pandemic with a closed campus, we identified a couple of challenges that we need to address and that we want to explain a little bit how we solve them in this talk. One of them is that we have a lot of heterogeneous learning groups in Dortmund. So even if they do this course at the end of the study, it might be that students don't know each other. So we have 20 students and we have the challenge on how to form a learning group and bound them a little bit so that they can work with each other, even if they don't know each other at the beginning of the term. Then the downside in this summer term was that we have to do remotely, and I said downside, but on the other hand, it's also a chance. So it's the first time that we do this kind of projects fully remotely and also introduce students to each other remotely. And as I said, we're going to have a couple of topics from the IT security world, and we also want to look on penetration testing on campus. We can do that in a special lab because we have to make sure that all the tools are not working and communicating with the real internet. So we just can do a physical disconnected network, and then we do plug in a couple of vulnerable machines, and then we can do with the students whatever we want in this artificial lab. In the summer term, we couldn't do that because the campus was closed and we cannot give them a remote shell or something like that, because then eventually the tool might leak to the internet if they misuse the shell. So instead, we created the complete IT security lab as a set of virtual machines, and students had to do it and run it on their own machines. The advantage is that by this, students also learn a little bit more about virtualization and how to run virtual machines and virtual networks, which actually contributes to the software engineering area part of the course. So at the beginning, we had to explain a little bit on what are actually formal methods and what is IT security. The students don't have any previous knowledge in those areas, so they know a little bit about formal methods. They have a rough idea how this constitutes from the mathematical classes they've taken before, so they have an idea how abstract interpretation works. They know a couple of Satz-solving problems from theoretical basic classes, but we have to review them a little bit, and then they should do a project work in which they actually do something and work as a group. We designed the course in a split into this introduction phase from new content and then the project phase. And as said before, as we identified already that forming a learning group is a challenge, we decided to spend the first week for onboarding students to the class, to introduce them to each other, to make sure that they found all the resources we provided, they found places how to contact us, they get connected with each other. Then we designed a 5 weeks block for introducing new topics, and this is followed by 7-week blocks for starting the project phase, working on the projects, and then actually presenting the projects in the last week. We identified, as everything is remote, communication as a key challenge, and we shortly want to present here how we solve that, and this is also a major topic of the paper. So at the beginning, as said, we need to create this kind of bonding, and we decided we will do this by interviews, partner interviews. So we paired students in groups of 2, and then they had to interview each other and write a short introduction about the other person on a wiki page. We provided a Moodle room where we could link all the materials we created for this course, and we established a chat room for the course, which was private, and students could join there and ask questions and chat with each other. And I also had the chance on the chat platform to do direct messaging to other students. So we get them started to set up the chat room as a replacement to on-site chattering in lecture rooms or exercise rooms, which is not available remotely. In addition, we created bi-weekly video consultation places. So we have set up a video conference call, and then one of the teachers has been present, and students could just join and ask any kind of questions. And they use this kind of frequently at the beginning of the introduction phase to clarify general questions on how the course is designed, what are like deadlines they have to be aware of, how to contact their fellow students, and how to install things, how to debug a couple of things at some places. So they use this video consultation to ask all kinds of questions they otherwise normally ask on site during exercises or during lecture classes. And instead of having some kind of on-site meeting, we introduced a bi-weekly hands-on meeting where everyone joined, and then we discussed like what they have learned, how it worked, whether it worked well, whether it didn't go too well. What are like general questions a lot of people ask the teaching personnel, so that we could explain a little bit more on what general questions eventually not clarified in the material we provided, but we want to give a general answer for the whole audience. And after that, we started the project phase, and we stopped this bi-weekly meeting, and we also stopped the video consultation. Instead, we had like one-to-one sessions with the group. So the teaching person just had a group meeting with the group once a week, or depending a little bit on how often the group asked for a meeting. And then we clarified everything directly in the smaller groups. And the complete course has met once more at the end to present all the different projects. For the introduction phase, we had to solve the challenge on how to provide content, and we decided to do this by videos. And one problem is that we had to transfer a lot of knowledge for tools. So as said, we used this visualization environment. So we had to explain how to install it, how to configure it. We also used a couple of different formal verification tools, namely CBMC and JDAT. So we had to explain how to install them, how to get them running, how to debug some errors that occurred on different machines. And we cannot handle all of this in the videos. So we really relied on this video consultation hours where people came with questions they had after watching the videos, and it worked pretty well. And then we had questionnaires in the Moodle room where people could give feedback, what they liked, what they disliked, which are like unsolved problems we should address in the videos, and we try to adapt them in the next videos. One more aspect we have chosen is the WebGoat project. It's maintained by the Open Web Application Security Project, which is the long form of OWASP, or the OWASP group, and they provide a lot of contents openly available around IT security in general. And they also have educational content, and one of them is the WebGoat project. So you get a small application. In this application, you could try different security things. We use this extensively for SQL injection, and we translated parts of the English introduction to SQL injections to German and extended it slightly so that we could place all the things that are interesting for us and the later projects on SQL injection in this app. And students actually like that because they could try out things themselves, they could read a little bit, and then they could try it on code, and they got a really good feeling on how it works. And they get a kind of instant feedback. So while they're doing the exercises, the app is telling them whether they solved it or not. And the general feedback was really positive on this. I think it's a very interesting way for transferring knowledge that might be used even more in on-site classes in the future. The general conclusion, what we learned, is that it's really important in a remote setting to structure communication. So we paired up people at the beginning. We have seen that those pairs remain kind of stable until the end. People tend to work with the initial interview partner for exercises and also the project later. And it was really clear that there's a single chat room where they could come to ask questions, and either one of the other fellow students answered them, or one of the teaching personnel is going to answer them. In addition, we think that hands-on projects really require students to make their own experiences. So we have not prepackaged all of the tools as runnable virtual machines. We thought about that at the beginning, but we think it's really important that students learn about the operation systems, that they learn about build systems. So we just gave them the projects and the descriptions and the existing install scripts, and then they had to get them running on their machines. And at the beginning, they've been really unhappy, but in the later final feedback, they have answered often the question what they're going to learn, and they said we learn a lot about build systems, we learn way more about the operation systems, we feel way more comfortable to debug any existing project and get it running in the future. So I know that it's sometimes more comfortable from a student perspective to just get the prepackaged with a machine, and then everything is running and I can focus on the actual content of the class. But as those hands-on projects have the explicit focus also on software engineering skills, we think that it was a good move not to provide prepackaged virtual machines. And the last thing is that we think from the remote setting, there results a higher chance for better employability. So students get more experience in working in remote settings. They are forced to use some code review tools. So we used GitLab in this case. They had to learn how to write a pull request. They had to learn how to comment on a pull request. They had to learn how to merge across different branches. And in this setting, they're way more challenged to use those tools as they're meant to be used, instead of just working with their neighbor sitting in front of a PC and then they just merge it somehow on an USB drive or something later. So they're actually enforced to use all these remote collaboration tools the way they're designed to. And we think also the aspect of going to a video conference, talk in a video conference, how to use it, gives them more confidence on how to do it later in a potential job. And in the future, we therefore would keep this remote format for the project phase and just think that the content introduction phase might be done way better in presence. Thank you very much for your talk, and I'm happy to answer your questions during the conference.